Hey Screen Rant fans, it's Rob here with Ryan.
Hey guys.
So there's a whole lot of Spider-Man going on in the world right now.
Oh yeah, I mean first off, there's that amazing new Spider-Man game on PS4 that I can't bring myself to stop playing. I am all about doing backflips in that Spider-Punk costume. That's how I spend like half my time right now.
There's also Spider-Man Far From Home that's filming right now, which is bringing us a bunch of cool set photos and hints about what's to come. Apparently, Spider-Man is going to Venice. That'll be a first.
Then in December 2018, we're getting Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the awesome-looking animated movie featuring the pig version of Spider-Man we had no idea we needed.
And that's what today's episode of Theory Battle is all about. Not Spider-Ham specifically, but the actual movie as a whole.
So if this is your first episode of Theory Battle, here's a quick brief on how these things go. Rob and I are going to go head-to-head with different theories about this movie. We'll explain the theories, what you need to know about them, and why we think they're awesome.
Then in the comments section, you guys let us know which one you think is the most likely to be true.
Before we get into the theories, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. That'll let you stay up to date with all our new stuff on Screen Rant.
We're talking stuff like theory battles, pitch meetings, in-depth documentaries, and a whole lot more.
So Rob, go ahead and kick us off with the first theory.
Thanks, Ryan. So the theory I'm bringing to the table for this battle says that Into the Spider-Verse features Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
Fingers crossed that he doesn't break out into some kind of emo jazz dance number.
To be honest, part of me does want to see that. So based on the trailers and descriptions we've seen for Into the Spider-Verse, at least 6 different versions of Spider-Man are coming together to stop the destruction of Miles Morales' world. We can assume that their worlds are probably in trouble too because they all seem pretty determined. In the movie, Miles Morales is going to be trained by a version of Spider-Man from a different dimension, voiced by New Girl's Jake Johnson.
Nick Miller himself.
His version of Spider-Man is slightly older and a little less in shape. He also seems to like hamburgers and fries quite a bit more than you'd expect from Spider-Man. So this theory says that that guy is actually the older version of Spider-Man featured in the Sam Raimi Trilogy, played by Tobey Maguire. Now, you might say, okay, well, why didn't they get Tobey Maguire to voice the character if that's the case? Well, maybe they did try and he didn't want to. If your last experience as Spider-Man was Spider-Man 3, you might not be too keen to return to the character either. Or maybe they just wanted an actor with stronger comedy chops like Jake Johnson. Either way, taking the voice actor out of the equation, there are already a few things that point to this theory possibly being true. So in one of the trailers for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, we get a quick little recap of some of older Spider-Man's greatest moments, and the career highlights seem pretty familiar. There's a shot of him stopping a train, just like that iconic moment in Spider-Man 2. There's also that upside-down kiss with MJ. And there's also a car flying through a window, just like Dr. Octopus's strange attempt at playing catch in Spider-Man 2. Luckily, there didn't seem to be anything from Spider-Man 3. That's probably a part of Peter's life he'd like to forget just as much as us.
Okay, but there are a couple of pretty big differences in those scenes. For example, in that train scene in Spider-Man 2, Peter wasn't wearing a mask. It was kind of the whole point of that scene. All those people saw his face and they were like, "It's all good, kid, we'll keep your secret." Also, Doc Ock chucked a car at them while they were in a coffee shop, but in that Spider-Verse trailer, it's like a fancy restaurant or something. Also, he straight up punches the car instead of diving under it like in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, those are some pretty fair points, but it's also pretty easy to explain why they might have been like that. For example, maybe Peter's memory of those events have changed a little over the past decade. Or maybe he's just embellished the stories a little over the years to hide the fact that he had his identity revealed and got taken off guard by a flying car. Kind of embarrassing details for someone who's trying to take on the role of a mentor. Or it could easily be that what we're seeing in those moments is Miles Morales imagining the events as Peter's describing them.
Fair enough, yeah, if Miles is imagining these events, he definitely pictures Spider-Man wearing his mask during those moments.
The point is that it wasn't an accident that the filmmakers chose to show those scenes. When you think of iconic Spider-Man moments, those are definitely 3 that come to mind. They want us to quickly realize that this is the Spider-Man we've known for years. The timeline also works pretty well too. In Spider-Man 3 in 2007, Peter was a nerdy, neurotic college kid. The Peter Parker we see in Into the Spider-Verse seems to be in his 30s, as you would be 10 years after college. He also seems to have calmed down a little bit, become a little more comfortable in his own skin, as you probably would after being a superhero for over a decade. The world isn't as scary to him as it once was because he's seen and done some crazy stuff.
Another thing kind of messing up this theory though, in the trailer for Into the Spider-Verse, it seems like Peter's using web shooters. Sam Raimi's version of Spider-Man had the web be organic and come from inside his body. Although I have to admit I never really thought about where all that webbing would be stored inside his body, and now I feel pretty gross about the whole thing.
Yeah, that's also definitely a gross thought, but it's also pretty easy to explain. Although the explanation is kind of gross too. See, as men get older, they also become less amazing at producing certain organic substances.
Okay, yeah, we're getting real gross here.
Yeah, we are, but the point is, maybe with age, Peter isn't able to produce as much webbing as he was as a kid. So maybe in order to continue being Spider-Man, he set his mind to creating the mechanical web shooters we've seen in the other big screen versions of Spider-Man. Having synthetic webbing would allow him to keep being Spider-Man without relying on those radioactive spider powers as much.
Alright, Rob, solid theory, I'm into it.
Thanks, Ryan. So let's hear what theory you're bringing to the table.
Yeah, let's do it. My theory says that Into the Spider-Verse is connected to the MCU. One of the main things supporting this theory is the fact that in one of the trailers for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, we see the grave of Peter Parker.
Yeah, kind of a shock to see.
Yeah, 2018 is giving us way too much Spider-Man death. I'm not a fan of it. I much prefer when Peter Parker's alive, to be completely honest. Anyway, that gravestone actually says that Spider-Man died in 2018. Can you think of a version of Spider-Man that died in 2018? Cause I can. Here's a little hint. It's the only version of Spider-Man we've ever seen that could easily fit inside a vacuum cleaner.
Super dark.
You'd have a hard time fitting Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man or Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man inside a vacuum cleaner. So yeah, I'm talking about Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know, the one that didn't feel so good. So the events of Infinity War would have taken place in the same universe as the one we're about to see in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And that gravestone would be for the MCU Spider-Man.
Although, I guess his remains wouldn't actually be buried under it.
No, it'd be more of a symbolic grave, I guess. Unless Tony Stark swept up all the spider dust from planet Titan and brought it all the way back to Earth. Which is a possibility, to be fair. Tony's Iron Man suits have so many functionalities now that at this point I wouldn't be surprised if he had a vacuum function in there too.
Nanotechnology, man. He can literally do anything with those suits now.
Another big hint that this might take place in the same universe as the Avengers movie is the existence of the Prowler. We know that the villain the Prowler is going to be in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, voiced by Academy Award winner Mahershala Ali no less. Now for the most part in the comics, the Prowler is a dude named Hobie Brown, but there have been other incarnations where somebody else has taken on the Prowler name. Namely, in Ultimate Marvel, the Prowler is a guy named Aaron Davis, and that's the version that Mahershala Ali is going to be playing in Into the Spider-Verse. That's according to IMDb and, well, pretty much every reliable source on the entire internet. The inclusion of Aaron Davis is key here because he's the uncle of Miles Morales. He's the brother of Miles' dad, Jefferson. And over in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we've already met Aaron Davis. Flashing all the way back to the magical time of 2017, that character showed up in Spider-Man Homecoming. He was played by actor, writer, director, musician, producer, multitasker Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, aka Lando Calrissian, aka the voice of Simba in the upcoming Lion King remake.
That guy definitely keeps busy.
Yeah, and he wasn't in Homecoming very much, but you probably remember that awesome interrogation scene where they even had him go out of his way to say that he has a nephew.
Yeah, he got his hand webbed to his car and had to stand there while his ice cream melted.
Right, so Aaron Davis didn't seem to be full-on Prowler yet, but he was already a criminal, and maybe the Thanos snap was the catalyst for him to make that change.
There would be a lot of cool stuff lying around for him to steal with half the population disappearing.
Yeah, it would be kind of the best time ever to be a criminal if you think about it. People wouldn't be protecting their stuff too much since they all pretty much lost loved ones or disappeared themselves. Anyway, the point is that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has a dead Peter Parker and has a Miles Morales running around, assuming Miles didn't also turn to dust. In Into the Spider-Verse, you also have a dead Peter Parker and a Miles Morales running around.
Yeah, pretty major things to have in common.
And if you think about it, these movies taking place in the same universe could open the door for an awesome storyline in Far From Home. The fact that Spider-Man Far From Home is even happening is a pretty big hint that the Avengers are going to manage to reverse the snap in Avengers 4 somehow. But we also know that a couple of years have passed between the events of Avengers 3 and 4, so Into the Spider-Verse would take place in that bubble between those two movies, meaning Tom Holland's Spider-Man would come back from Snapland to find that there's a new Spider-Man in town, Miles Morales. That could actually be what sparks whatever storyline is going to be happening in Spider-Man Far From Home. Peter realizes that New York is in good hands now, so he takes his hero skills somewhere far from home.
Like a Spider-Man world tour.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel has already said that it's going to be a global movie, so this could be a pretty good fit.
Alright Ryan, good theory.
Thanks Rob. So now let's go through a quick recap of both theories so you guys at home can decide which one you think is the most likely to be true.
My theory says that Into the Spider-Verse features Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. The trailers feature key moments from Sam Raimi's Trilogy. Those scenes had to be chosen deliberately by the filmmakers, and the timelines line up well for this to be true.
And my theory says that Into the Spider-Verse takes place in the MCU. Spider-Man died in Infinity War, and this movie features a dead Peter Parker. The Prowler was introduced in Homecoming, and he's also in this movie. And Miles Morales could be the reason that Peter Parker takes off in Far From Home.
So now it's time to turn it over to you guys in the YouTube comments section. Which of these two theories do you think is most likely to be true?
Or which one's your favorite? Let us know in the comment section below.
Also, if you have another theory about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, definitely let us know.
Yeah, if you hadn't noticed, we really like theories. If this was the first episode of Theory Battle you've seen, we do have lots of other episodes on the channel you can check out. We actually recently did one on Venom that you'd probably enjoy.
In that one, we both presented theories as to how Venom may have already been introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, one of us had a theory that Spider-Man's suit AI Karen is going to be a new take on Venom, and the other had a theory that Venom venom was attached to Hela in Thor Ragnarok.
If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. That'll keep you up to date with all the latest stuff from Screen Rant.
Thanks for watching, guys, and check back soon for a new episode. Bye-bye.